Welcome to Why Blank Lost. It is our 10th year on podcasts, 25 total. I am your host here. David Bloomberg is my name. Others are here. Jessica Lewis joins me as she always does to analyze things. David Wright is here as our special guest as well. We are very glad. And for the record, I had written all those haikus before Rob said I know it all, that it was a law that all podcasts this week had to start that way.
Fabulous haiku, I guess. Idea what was going on. I was like, people are going to be like, what happened to David Bloomberg? Because this is not the man we usually hear.
Yes.
At all. All right. Well, there we are. Well, hi, David.
Hello. Yeah, no, it's hi. Go. We're already off to a great start. I prepared a haiku too, but now you beat me to it. You beat me to the
Well,
fire.
go ahead. You have to share yours as well.
Numbers tell the tale. Bloomberg, Jessica explain why Dee lost the game. Now that rhymes, which you're not supposed to do, but whatever. I broke a rule.
Yours is much more catchy, I will say, than what we just heard Bloomberg do. Listen, it was great, but I'm curious, when you're doing a haiku, do you have to speak in such a slow, particular fashion?
I have no idea.
Why did you do so then?
Seemed like the thing to do.
I think you're supposed to do it alone with people secretly watching from afar. That's what I learned from the last episode.
Yes, by yourself, and then go, did you hear that?
Was that great? And then everybody next to you goes, yeah.
That was really quite entertaining, I will say. It was. Yeah. Weird, but entertaining.
Yeah. He's having fun out there.
Yeah.
He definitely. Yeah, I do feel that Coach is presenting himself in much a Coach fashion that we're very accustomed to, right? Like, we all know this Coach, and he assured us that we were going to get a different version of Coach this season. But he's admitted himself. He's like, well, I guess I'm just going to be the coach I was, because here we are, we're doing the same thing. And so I guess you can only keep yourself contained for so long before the real you just has to be presented to the world. And we're right back to the same coach that we knew so many seasons already. But yeah, it's a little, I'm just going to say a little off-putting. If I was on the island with him, I mean, it could be entertaining, but at the same time, like when everyone was whispering, like, is he talking to himself? Like, you're genuinely concerned. Like, if there's something more happening here than meets the eye.
Yeah. And I have a few thoughts in a couple of minutes more about that. But wanted to ask David, how have you been since we last talked? We haven't seen you, and it's been about a year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been a year, and I think I was not married the last time we spoke, and now I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got married in July of last year.
Okay.
The only survivor I invited was Adam, who officiated the ceremony. So that was a blast.
He talked to us about that last week. Yes.
Oh, no way. Okay, I haven't watched yet. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, it was a blast. And then my wife and I, we got back from our honeymoon last week. We were in Mexico, staying at this all-inclusive resort. So I was living that Mike White Lotus life.
Yes.
That's amazing. You're practicing for your cameo.
Right. Exactly. Yes, you get it.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That's what it is.
I would actually love to be in White Lotus. Are you kidding? That'd be amazing.
Well, you heard it here, Mike White.
Please.
I'd love a cameo too. I mean, come on, let's do this.
Yes, I'm sure Mike White is definitely listening, especially once he got, blindsided out of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Just like Jeff Probst listens. I mean, come on.
Right.
Could you imagine if he actually did, just to like giggle to himself? Like,
yeah,
if Jeff was like, let's just hear what these people are saying about me and what kind of craziness they're putting out into the universe. I think that would be funny.
Oh my God, he stays up on all of it. Yeah, everything, every podcast, every interview.
He wouldn't be giggling. He'd be like, "Oh, they are so wrong. They don't know what they're talking about."
No, he would be giggling as he's counting his money. 'Cause he's
Oh,
like,
well, that
really?
too, yeah.
You think I'm making bad choices?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see what's happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, this week we are back to a normal, everyday 14-person vote, as I had predicted. But no matter how many people are involved, we'll figure out what happened to Dee by comparing her gameplay to a set of guiding rules for winning I originally wrote way back after season 1 and have been updating ever since. We use all the non-spoiler information available to us from what we saw on TV, interviews, social media, and secret scenes. The newest published version of the rules can be found at robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed. Scroll to the link bubble that is labeled Survivor Rules. But before we get to those rules for Dee and not for thee, we always have some other things to discuss. A bit more than usual this time, especially when it comes to one particular player who Jessica has already hinted at strongly here.
Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Yeah, well, I know. But we're not going to start with him. Rather, let's talk about Aubry so we don't forget to mention her, because forgetting important things happens a lot. Like, say, if you have an idol and you wanted to play it, sometimes it slips your mind,
Yeah.
So
that was bad.
Yeah, well, as I said last week, Aubry was smart to realize that when Genevieve got the not safe result from her shot in the dark, she didn't need to play her idol. It was not so great to tell Devins and Christian that she forgot, like you just said. And Devins confirmed what I said on last week's podcast, that he and Christian fully believed Aubry would play the idol. And I think she believed she would play the idol till the shot failed. And she was like, I don't need to. So it was a good idea. She just could have handled the explanation part better. Like, I'm not sure why she wasn't honest. It made complete sense. Like, hey, I have this idol. Why would I want to play it now? I didn't need to. And of course, she realized later what a big mistake that was, and to somewhat rectify it by playing it. And I do have to say, it might have helped save her this week, since Chrissy mentioned there were 2 names going around and hers was one of them.
Yeah. So the I forgot is really a terrible excuse, because there are things, I will say, that you do forget when you're in the middle of the game, because your brain is mush and you're tired and hungry. And so, yes, you certainly forget certain things. You forget how to strategize. You forget, I'm in control of my own destiny right now, and I can do this thing if I really want to. But there's all of these factors happening around you. But it was pretty clear going into that tribal that she was going to be playing the idol. And you also saw her reaching into her pocket. So yes, I mean, so she really needed to work on her excuse for not choosing to play it. But I also chatted about this in our last podcast, and the soapbox I was on, about her ability to make that decision after they read the scroll. I don't agree with. I don't think that I think everything's got to go at the same time.
Someone wrote to me on Blue Sky and said, well, pertaining to Jessica's idea, what about this and this and this? And I said, well, the problem is I disagree with Jessica's idea. So,
Yeah, I think, sorry, what Aubry really forgot was to tell the truth in that moment. And I get the slip of it, though, because I think your first instinct out there so often is to lie, to do damage control on whatever move you've done. And I think that she just was kind of on autopilot, and that terrible lie just slipped out. And you're right, telling the truth and just owning the reasons why would have been far better. But it is funny that, now she just had to get rid of it, because there's all this heat on her.
So did you know Aubry was headed out there?
I did not. Funny enough, I didn't even know Aubry was headed out there in the season I played with her.
Oh, there was no pre-gaming? Wait, time out.
None. And I thought I had figured out. It's funny, because I thought I'd figured out the theme of that season, and I expected Wentworth to be there, and she was. But then when the boat pulled up and Aubry got on, I'm like, oh my God, why didn't we talk? That didn't matter anyway. But But yeah, it's funny, like watching Aubry this season, it does feel very much like she's kind of picking up right where she left off in 38, in not a great way. And I love Aubry, by the way. She's freaking awesome. But definitely some stumbles right now. But I'm hoping that she's starting to get her game legs back after this last episode.
Yeah. Yeah. She is my winner prediction. So she, got to step it up there, Aubry. Now, one thing that was interesting, and I am certainly not the only one to have noticed this, but why exactly was it so bad that Aubry had an idol to the point that people essentially forced her to play it? But it's okay that Rizo and Ozzy have idols and nobody says, you got to play yours or else we're going to make you a target.
Well, it all depends on if you're sitting at the cool kids table, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Who's in your crew? Who are you playing with? Rizzo's found himself in a very comfortable position right now because he's kind of in with everyone. And you also have the same thing with Ozzy. He has Suri and company and people that are really looking out for him. No one's really looking out for Aubry.
No.
She's kind of on her own island. And so I think that's the big difference there.
Yeah, I got so annoyed on her behalf because she was totally right. Like, yeah, other people have idols that everybody knows about, but I have to play mine. Like, F
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Sorry, are we allowed to curse on this podcast? I have no idea.
Yeah. F you is okay.
Okay, F you, okay, good. That's as far as I'll go. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like, and not to get too ahead of ourselves, but it does seem like Aubry and Tiffany are kind of islands right now going forward. And they're going to get picked up by some group.
I mean, Aubry does seem to have a decent relationship with Coach of all people. We saw in a previous episode that she made some inroads with him. And I think there was like a brief scene of her like dancing around with him.
Yeah, that was odd too.
Which we know how she feels about dancing. We saw in 38 how she felt when Ron was doing all those dances. So.
Right. Well, I do think though that even though she might have made some inroads with Coach, she's not like nickname worthy, right? That she's not in that camp with Coach.
I mean, she's a woman.
Does he ever give women nicknames?
I don't know, but he's supposedly in an alliance with Chrissy and that other woman, and he didn't give either of them nicknames or invite them into the Four Horsemen. He instead reached out to Rizo to bring him in and give him a, I dub thee.
Yeah, interesting.
So, and in a secret scene, he even handed off Tidewalker to Jonathan.
Yeah.
I think I think only men are worthy of nicknames according to Coach.
Well, all right. If they're the only ones worthy of nicknames, which is silly, all of it's very silly. But I still don't think that she rises to the level of like a Jonathan in Coach's eyes as far as how the game is being played. I mean, Coach has slipped up quite a bit. I know we weren't going to talk about him, but now we are talking about him.
Oh, no, we have plenty to talk about him now. Okay. Yeah.
Because he has slipped up multiple times where he's lied and then got busted and then was like, oh, snap, I can't do that. Like that was, I need to think about how I'm answering questions when people are asking me things. And so, I do think that he's very much centered on this core group of people. And then I do think that unfortunately it's really negatively affecting his game because he's trying to really like make the others feel like they have to play the game that he's playing, which is not fair to anybody because everyone is going to take their own approach to how they play Survivor.
And that's not Survivor. I mean, this is his fourth time playing and he still doesn't understand the game. But anyone who does understand, he put them on blast. First he and Jonathan got pissy with Dee about lying in honor. And, that's those two, they really needed to hear this from Suri all the way back in, I think it was episode 2.
He lied on Survivor? Yeah.
I love that.
You lied on Survivor? Oh my gosh,
crazy, right?
Yeah. But they were so overconfident in their positions that they just blasted Dee and anyone else in the middle of camp. And then at the end of that, coach said to Dee, actually, I guess it was kind of in the middle somewhere. Coach says, "That's not how I play Survivor." Well, gee, coach, maybe that's why Dee won on her first time. And it's been 3 times and you still haven't won. And guess what? It'll be 4 soon enough. But
not
you know,
pulling any punches.
no.
No.
I mean, he tried to make us believe he had changed, and he did not. And I mean, he, like you said earlier, Jessica, and he even added to us, nobody's going to win this game unless they have honor. And then he ranted to other people saying, if anybody out here wants to run around and tell lies and play that kind of way in Survivor 50, they ain't winning the game. That's a fact. Vote me out tonight and there'll be hell to pay. Screw them if they think they're going to get to Final Tribal Council playing this way. And then back in confessional, he said, I guess the old coach is back, like you said, Jessica. It's like, yeah, he is the old coach who doesn't know how to play Survivor.
Well, that's interesting. So that's the thing I can't quite figure out is if whether or not coach is in on it or not, like
that's a tale as old as coach, that is he in on it? Is he not? And a lot of people like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I cannot, because I have seen him in person. I met him once or twice. I have seen him sitting, we were in Reno at a Run It Up Reno RHAP event, and he came in and he sat on a panel, and just in person, I don't even know, otherworldly, I guess, as if like space alien otherworldly. And so I think that he believes he's in on part of it. Like, I do think like the nicknames and the knighting, yes, that part I will grant you he is playing into it. But the part about honor and loyalty,
right?
I mean, I loved Emily calling out, not to his face, but calling out his hypocritical BS to others about how honesty will win the game, calling him a flat-faced liar. Because remember, just last week, Dee busted him making up blatant lies about Emily, and Emily knows this. She knows how much of a hypocrite he is. And I feel like something just, I don't know, Jessica, when you said, he was talking about, I can't get caught doing that anymore. It's like something flipped in his brain that doesn't allow, he doesn't allow himself to admit that he lies. So by getting caught and called on it, it flipped back to earlier coach, which of course would never lie. He has honor and integrity. And so I really do think he believes this somehow. He has convinced himself.
I'm wondering too if part of it is almost like a distraction, because it just reminds me very much of like, if you think back in like high school days, right? Like maybe there was that one kid in your school that everybody thought was a little like, something was a little off, or like you weren't really sure like what that person's deal was, right? And sometimes they lean into it because they were like, well, if this is the perception that people have of me, then I'm just going to lean into it and act like that is how I am. And this is a choice. And what you're saying about me doesn't bother me. And this is how I'm going to be. And it's almost like, it's like a shield for him to be like, well, this is who I am. And this is how I want everyone to perceive me, because that's how they are perceiving me. So it's easier to do that than to try to like apologize for your behavior, because when you start to realize that you're offensive, or that you're saying things that people don't appreciate, or that you are actually lying and you're calling everybody out when you're doing that same thing, it's just easier to be like, well, but this is who I am as a person, and represent yourself in that way, as opposed to being like, damn it, you figured me out. Like this really is just kind of like a show. And I'm acting, I'm putting up this character. And I understand he does seem to be very similar in social media, but again, that's public. So maybe he's this way at home. but I don't know. I just kind of wonder.
My general principle is when someone like there is a tendency for people to give someone like Coach the benefit of the doubt. And I say someone like Coach because it's on all sorts of reality shows. Like people will be like, oh, that person on Big Brother can't possibly be that dumb. They must be playing it up. No, in all likelihood, they really are that dumb. Oh, that person can't really believe that. They're playing it. No, they really do believe that. So until I see something like him in a confessional saying, I've got them all fooled about this honor and integrity stuff. I put on quite a show. No, I'm not going to believe that. He has had too many opportunities. He's always the same. And you saw it in his face. It happened when he heard from Jonathan, although we didn't see this, we later heard about it in interviews, that Dee didn't trust him.
Right.
And between him getting caught in the lie and Dee not trusting him, that wounded him. That wounded his whole persona. And it just snapped him back into old Coach, I think.
Right. But he's also locked in. So it's this idea that you can't in that moment all of a sudden go, oh, geez, I really am not honest. And I don't have integrity like I've been claiming all of these years and all the times I've played this game. So it is really you're fully locked in. It's all or nothing as far as Coach is concerned, because if he acknowledges what he did, then he has to acknowledge the fact that the game is not about honor and integrity. And that's just something that he has decided the game is supposed to be. So he can't admit that.
That's
well,
so
he admitted
fascinating.
it. Sorry, David. He admitted it in pregame interviews. Go ahead.
No, it's just such fascinating psychology where if you are playing a role that because you can't admit it, then it does become real. And then it's like, well, now it's not a role.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I love that.
You've become this thing that you pretended to be, but now you have to be this thing because you've pretended for so long.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit the way Keith Richards in his autobiography describes having to play the part of Keith Richards, because he did leave that hedonistic lifestyle, but he wasn't that 24/7, but people's perception is that he is. And so it was like, yeah, he would play and lean into it. And of course now he's off the drugs and off the alcohol and stuff. But yeah, it's like where is the real man? Where's the real human begin and end? And where does the role start?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Coach continued by saying to us that he wasn't, or that he was telling people how to vote, doing something that he said he wasn't going to do. And again, he also said he wasn't going to go back to his honor and integrity BS. He said all the right things to interviewers in the pregame about how he realized he would need to lie and manipulate people. And on this very podcast in the preseason, we praised him for it. But now here we are again. It was all
it was a ruse. It was just a ruse.
I'm kind of happy to have the Dragon Slayer back though.
It is weirdly entertaining, but also you're kind of embarrassed for him. It's you're like, oh gosh, really?
It's a combination of, it's like, in my opinion, I know there are some people out there going, I love Coach. Because this is a matter of opinion, what you like, what you find entertaining.
Sure.
To my opinion, he is entertaining up to a point, and then he becomes annoying as heck when he goes into the full-on hypocritical, we're going to do things my way, holding my cross out to show you how righteous I am, doing whole, in tribal council, doing it with the prayer beads and the cross, and in confessionals, holding it out conspicuously so what a good religious person he is. Come on.
Yeah. Certainly his tribe mates are feeling everything that you're saying. That seems to be the perception, or concern for his health and stuff. So yeah, everything you're saying is true.
Yeah. It was so bad that Rizo, the youngest person, had to explain to Coach how to play Survivor. He said it's so asinine and so frustrating to play with, and told Coach, we slay dragons at tribal. We don't slay dragons at camp. Which, by the way, Rizo, that is a really good line. And
it's a great line.
Yeah. Make a shirt. And I will buy that shirt. From Rizo, not just from random person. And then he added, these people have been playing Survivor almost longer than I've been alive. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting part that I think we're really seeing with the shift in the game, because there is that idea of like old school versus new era, and like the middle existence of Survivor and what it was in between, and kind of seeing those two things collide, which it was hilarious when we got to hear Ozzy say, "I've never done this before," when the whispering started, and
Yeah.
and so there is a lot of like learning in regards to the new era. And I think that it's either you embrace it and try to lean into the new stuff while still remembering the old stuff, like we've been seeing Sari do so beautifully
Yes.
well. She's been finding that middle ground. And now Rizzo is having to do the opposite, because he's having to try to ingratiate himself to old school, but still be new era. And I try to find that middle ground too. And so I really am impressed that Rizzo and Sari have been able to do that in the way that they have, because they really are combining two worlds, where someone like Coach is just struggling because he's very much made it clear you're not winning unless you're like kind of old school, right? Because this is honor and integrity and we're not doing this lying stuff. But actually, no, you did that in old school Survivor too.
Yes.
You just never wanted to be a part of
Right.
it. So
Right.
yeah, it's a little crazy.
And I think that Coach in Rizzo sees the relationship, and tell me, I believe this is right, the relationship he had with Cochran. I think there's like a little history repeating itself here. That there's something about that archetype from of like your Cochrans and your Rizzos that Coach really responds to and gravitates towards, probably maybe out of a sense of ego, but I think that's we're seeing history repeat itself. It's really the main note there.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Now, one thing I noticed after the whole Coach blow up, when Emily got it into her head to vote him out, was, as I live posted in the moment on Blue Sky, the only thing I worry about is that every other time this season we've seen Emily propose a plan, it's been a red herring in the edit. And indeed, that's what happened here. I mean, like, literally, I'm sitting there going, wow, that's a great plan. Wait, wait a minute. It's Emily proposing it.
And
There's
she
no
told
way.
everybody.
Well, yes. And I mean, considering how often it's happened, I feel like at this point, there's almost no way she can win. Even if she was just being kind of hypothetical in her ideas, like, wouldn't it be funny if I don't see a winner getting an edit like this, where we keep seeing them proposing plans and those plans never go through.
Yes. And throwing everybody's secrets out into the public sphere every time she can.
And I'm guessing this isn't the last of it, right? I think we're going to see more of it. That's a hard shift to make. If that's just the way you react, you're just going to keep doing it, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, I have to mention something Jeff said at Tribal Council, because Jessica, this is a hot button for me. He called it a live tribal multiple times once Dee got up and started whispering. No, Jeff, it never was. Never, ever. Nobody was paying any attention to her. There was zero chance the vote was changing. Even she knew that, which is why she played her shot in the dark. Stop trying to make live tribal happen.
Yeah.
I give Dee credit, though, for trying herself to make it happen.
Yeah.
But you're right. It never was live for a single second.
Yeah. Jeff. He just likes to try to, it's so exciting. It's a live tribal. No, it's not.
Well, and I do think that it's just worth mentioning, it's too risky too, right? At that point, to try to be like, to like scramble and be like, well, do we actually have numbers? Like, is everyone going to raise their hand? Who's like actually writing down Coach? Yeah.
We could barely get 14 people to agree at camp. Now we're going to try to do it in Tribal Council, please.
The only way it would work, and I don't know why you would ever wait this long. You would never wait to Tribal to do this. But if you had some piece of information, some bombshell that was true, that you could expose as being true at Tribal. But of course, you would do that before you ever made it there anyway.
Right.
You'd have to be something you somehow figured out in the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also have an entry for this week's edition of our new regular segment. The CBS Mornings crew is wrong about blank, because the Clueless Wonders gave us a couple things to bring up. First, Gayle King said Dee did, quote, something I've never seen before. She got up at Tribal Council and whispered to other players. And then one of her co-hosts said the same thing. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, wow, Gail, that's never happened on Survivor. Not like it first began in season 34 or anything.
Right.
Way to admit you've never actually seen the show before. I mean, can't you even do a better job of pretending? Just a little bit pretend.
Just a little bit pretend. Yeah. Well, yeah, they were wrong about that.
Yeah. And then Gail continued that she thought Dee had enough numbers on her side and, quote, I don't know how that happened. Okay, Gail, listen to the rest of the podcast. You'll find out.
Because Gail King is also listening.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And
she and Jeff are eating popcorn together. Right, like, listen to these people.
And then she did the same thing we've complained about for the past couple weeks. She asked Dee who she thinks will be the last player standing. Now, This is even worse than before because you could at least kid yourself into believing the pre-jurors might not know the final outcome. Dee is on the jury.
Yeah.
She knows what happens in final tribal council. She voted. She 100% knows who the winner is. Stop asking players this question.
Yeah, it's really interesting that like there's no communication with CBS this morning and Survivor just because it's like, why are you doing that? You have to know. And I'm surprised that she doesn't know, really. She must, right?
Right.
You would think that they would be communicating, but no, doesn't appear to be.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Just the disconnect.
To her credit, Dee, like most of the others so far, they responded by talking about who she was hoping would win. So she answered a different question than was asked. And she handled the other dumb questions very well also. But, like you said, David, this is CBS. And these are supposed to be professionals in their field. They should know not to put someone in this position, such that they have to lie or obfuscate on live TV. Someone needs to stop.
Where is their honor and integrity?
Right.
Hey, I like that.
They're forcing Dee to not have integrity by lying.
Yes, come on. Haven't they been watching this season? Don't they know? Goodness.
All right. Well, there were, of course, some other things going on, but we can't cover them all. So some of them you'll find on my TikTok and YouTube at David Bloomberg TV. And before we get to how Dee did, we do want to mention that the rules we're about to discuss come in a shorter and much more colorful version as a poster. You can go to robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed, scroll down to the poster, click on it, and order. And of course, in addition, you can keep scrolling and find the poster on a t-shirt or the shirt that both Jessica and I are wearing.
I know we're twinning.
The checklist on a t-shirt. So again, you can go to robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed for all of those.
That's right.
I love that poster. Thank you for sending that to me a year ago. I love that poster.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you do.
Well, many viewers were upset that it seemed like everyone was just following the crowd in this vote and letting Coach and Jonathan direct it, even though they were in the minority. But is that really what happened? Or were there further complications in the way people were thinking? And how did Dee get herself into this mess? Was it because she took out Charlie? Because she spilled info about Rizo's idol? Or simply because she was the only winner remaining? At RHAP, we know Survivor, and we know why Dee lost. Now, the first and most important rule is, of course, to scheme and plot. And, well, okay, it is to, anyone who has the foggiest clue of how to play Survivor. So, not Coach. But I'm sure we'll get to talking about the rules he broke, within a few weeks.
I was wondering why you were like backtracking.
Yeah, for him.
David runs over Coach with a bus, and then he backs over him, and then runs over him again.
It's the Camilla approach.
It is. Oh.
Now, of course, Dee did know and understand all of this. And we discussed a lot of that back in the YD1 podcast in Survivor 45. One thing in particular we mentioned was Dee telling Dalton Ross about how the RHAP before kept their strategy secret, including by getting together in the middle of the night so people wouldn't notice their gameplay. And it seems Dee continued this idea as she told Mike Bloom that this season, quote, Suri and I would only talk at night. We would never talk during the day because we were afraid of people seeing us together. And plus, of course, we know she had other alliances early, including Tiffany and Camilla on her original tribe, with Mike and Charlie in the middle there, but probably leaning towards them rather than Coach Jonathan and Chrissy. So, with all the ruckus Jonathan raised about how Dee turned on him, in fact, they were never together. As she told Dalton Ross, Jonathan, Chrissy, and Coach were coming for me from the beginning, and I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, she really does have a way of kind of knowing where people are in the game at all times. She was very good at it in the season that she won. She seemed to be very good at it now, but she's also able to still play with these people in a way that doesn't necessarily negate the possibility of having a relationship with them down the road. Even when we did see the Charlie vote happen, her response to Jonathan, I think, was really great, although he seemed to accept it, but then we found out later he didn't. But at least she knew enough to say, okay, well, I need to go try to mend fences here. But also she's not wrong in the realization that, like, they're not really with me. I'm with these people, and I really have to figure out where the numbers are and what's happening. So I think she's always done very well with that strategic component of her game, is knowing what the numbers are and what they look like, depending on multiple things like shifts and tribes and swaps, I guess I should say, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. Sorry, I actually had a message show up on my phone, and I it covered everybody up.
That was amazing, David. You were just like frozen, and then there was just, yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I really don't have much more to say in this rule either, because we know Dee was scheming and strategizing.
Right.
So, I mean, there's not a whole lot more to say about that. So we could move on to the second rule. You know, it's one of the quickest times we've ever moved from rule 1 to rule 2.
I feel so bad about that.
About what?
I'm just through the first one.
No, I mean, I
was like Mark Wahlberg in Boogie Nights. I just, when the firecrackers are going off. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I mean, the second rule.
Reference, I love it.
Yeah, the second rule says not to scheme and plot and to keep your scheming secret. And one thing we heard from Charlie's interviews was that everyone on their original tribe thought Dee was doing too much in this regard. And she acknowledged in interviews that she was paranoid, but also didn't feel like she was really doing more than others on the tribe at that point. For example, she told Dalton Ross, there were times where, for example, Coach sat me down and told me, Dee, I'm afraid of you, Camilla, and Tiff. And I'm like, well, Coach, what about you, Jonathan, and Charlie? So you could play Survivor, but I can't? And I can't find it now. But I would swear we heard similar sentiments from others on that tribe. Jessica, I don't know if you remember, whether it was Camilla's interviews last week or one of the videos that Tiffany has been making. It's just kind of sitting in the back of my head. That wasn't the first time I heard that. And yeah, this kind of hypocrisy would definitely piss someone off, but it's right up Coach's alley. It's like Emily said, rules for thee, but not for me. And so, yes, you have Coach being a hypocrite, but also if Charlie was right and more people were saying it, there probably was something more going on there.
Well, I am curious though, because we did hear Dee openly admitted in her exit press that, like, yes, I wanted to play, and I was going to play hard, and I was going to do these things. And so she certainly wasn't trying to like rein anything in because she didn't feel like she needed to. But at the same time, I am curious if some of the perception of her also stemmed from everyone's knowledge of Dee and the game that she played, because she was someone a lot of people talked about in pregame, and they were very afraid of Dee because they had just seen her play. They had seen her win. She's been dubbed the best new era winner, right? So like, I think there was this idea that like, oh gosh, Dee is very scary. And then it's a narrative gets created. So if the more people are saying, well, look out for Dee because she's playing too hard and she's moving too fast and she's doing too many things, it could be game related, but it could also be this idea that they were all like, we're afraid of her even before we came out in here and we wanted to vote her out before anyway. So I think it may be a combination of those things. And so then you have this narrative surrounding her that's partially true, but not entirely true.
Yeah, but I also think that narrative, it's also a reason. I mean, you talked about it. It's also a reason to keep her in the game because she's always going to be an easy vote. Like, oh, remember that big gigantic dragon, whatever we're afraid of. She's still here, but you're also safe because she's always going to be like, oh, we make her the next vote, and then she's not. But yeah, no, it is interesting, and I would have thought too, especially, and I think she said this, being the last winner in the game. It seems like it would preserve her longer than if there were like other winners still in the game. I don't know, but obviously not because it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, one thing we should look at was what happened between her and Charlie. She came into the game expecting to have him as a close ally, but she didn't like the way he was playing and voted him out. And as much as we discussed the move at the time, I think she made a mistake by throwing him away like that rather than trying to talk to him about what was going on. And this is the same thing that happened with, right at the beginning or at the beginning of the swap with Emily and Christian, when Emily got concerned about something and instead of just talking to Christian, it's like, why are these people not just talking to each other? But
yeah.
Charlie said in interviews that he thought she misunderstood him, trying to help her by warning her that people were looking at her, and that she was also generally suspicious of him playing with multiple allies. But she said in interviews it wasn't just that, rather that word was going around camp that she had gained some sort of advantage or idol for putting on the fashion show, which I have to say is a very bizarre thing to believe. I mean, I understand a bit the mindset, like, well, in 41, they had to say these weird phrases. So what if in 50, they have to put on a fashion show? It's like, no, that is never happening. Stop that.
I honestly could
I don't put
I
anything
could fall for
past.
that. Yeah. Exactly. I could totally fall for that. I could believe that.
I mean, at this point, the stuff that they're doing with these advantages, I think you can make players believe that anything could be a possible game twist.
Yeah. Well, clearly because they did. There's
another reason why people thought that is because they found out that another tribe did a fashion show. So they were like, wait a second, why are two tribes doing fashion shows? Like, that's weird. And so unfortunately, when you're out there, your brain starts spinning in every direction and you start thinking everything that could possibly be going on. And you start to convince yourself of things that don't necessarily make sense. But
I had a family member, I won't say who saw conspiracy in everything, which meant that they saw conspiracies that weren't there, but then also saw the ones that were. And I think that's kind of what it's like, as you just mentioned in Survivor, where your mind is working like overtime trying to figure out what is going on around me, what's real, what's true, and every single thing you hear and see becomes a piece of evidence for this conspiracy that is absolutely happening.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, but again, when it comes back, okay, whether it's a bizarre thing to believe or not, whether I think it is, either way, she found out about it, not from him. Again, why not talk to him? Ask him, why didn't you tell me about this? There was this communication breakdown somewhere there.
Yeah. I would worry, it's like, Sari, by the way, I think is the best at this. She can probe and get people to admit things without them feeling defensive about it. Like when she just smiled at Stephanie by the well. And I think but for other people, and I think myself included, you're so afraid to ask questions of other players because you're worried that it's going to be perceived as being some kind of confrontation and people are going to get defensive. It's like, oh, this person's thinking I'm lying or being suspicious. You know what? Maybe we should look at this person and get rid of them or whatever. But I 100% agree with you that communication is better than no communication.
Well, especially with it someone you know outside the game. You thought you were going to work with them. And yeah. Now, whether or not we know the full extent of Dee's possible over-scheming on her original tribe, things progressed from there. It seemed like Dee blindsiding Charlie and not telling Jonathan was the main trigger point for everything that happened afterwards, from Camilla being voted out last week to Dee this week. But Dee told Dalton Ross, me taking out Charlie was not the reason why I left. And indeed, we discussed in the first rule that Jonathan was already against her before then, which probably also predisposed him to not believing what Camilla and Dee told him after the vote about things Charlie had said, which we discussed last week. Plus, as we further discussed last week, if I were Jonathan, I would definitely have been suspicious about the timing and them only telling him after the vote. And that was, even without knowing he was already against her to start with. So again, communication. If you're going to do this, tell him you're going to do this. He couldn't do anything to stop it anyway. So just tell him, hey, Jonathan, we're all working together. And Charlie's saying these terrible things about you, so we're getting rid of him. We just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, and I think that Jonathan's reaction to it is not necessarily the wrong reaction to have, because he did find out after the fact. Nobody told him anything before it happened. And so the idea that there's a possibility that they are working together, I think he was very much correct in his I don't know about this because they didn't tell me about it before. But yeah, so she could have avoided that if there had been some discussion beforehand, obviously. Yeah.
I agree with you. The only thing I would say that's not great for Jonathan is the tact he took at coming out so strong.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I got her to expose herself. And it's like, even if you are really upset, that is not the way to handle it.
No, not at all. And also, what did he expose? And she was like, she's sitting there going, do you see what's happening?
Yeah.
Everyone is talking to each other and everyone is lying. There wasn't an aha moment that all of a sudden everyone went, oh, I had no idea that information about Dee. She's been bamboozling all of us all of this time. No, that didn't happen. So I'm really not sure what he thinks he managed
100%.
to get her to admit.
And then, by the way, all you're really doing with an attack like that is lighting a bigger fire under their butts to maybe come up with something that could actually save them. So I don't understand the strategy of him in that moment. But
but he thinks it worked.
Yeah,
so
he does think it worked.
He thinks it worked. I mean, they got the result they wanted this time.
They did. Yeah.
But so going, for Dee, she's in a situation. Going back a week or two, she's on the swap tribe with Jonathan, and he had been saying he wanted to work with her and Camilla. Why not try to hide your intentions better, Dee? That's what I was saying. Tell him before the vote. And yes, I know that, Dee thought that he would tell Charlie, but so what? Who cares? Give him a chance to at least not get blindsided and have his ego hurt for that reason. Because I think that's a big part of it. Much like we talked about with Coach earlier, I think that's a big part of it is I think that Jonathan's ego was hurt for being blindsided. And I know that she knew that he had been coming for her earlier. But this was a new tribe. And in those situations, you have to adapt. But she told Dalton, I'm very open with my gameplay. Everybody knew where I was. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the problem. Were they, were they coming for her at the merge? Probably, based on what we saw earlier and what she said. But why give an excuse they could use to make her look like a liar? Why give them ammunition? Even if we sit here and scratch our heads at some of that ammunition.
Well, to her credit, though, and not that I'm saying that she should have done what she was doing, she was also like, I have nothing to prove. I've already won this game. So whatever. Like, I'm going to play the way I want and not the way that someone else expects me to play or wants me to play. And so it must be kind of refreshing to just be like, my time is limited. She was realizing that, right? That she knew that she wasn't going to make it that far. So I just think it's interesting that she was kind of like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And either you jump on and play with me or you don't. And I do feel like there's something to be said about her just being so aware of where she was in the game and just kind of throwing caution to the wind, because there is the idea that David Wright was talking about earlier, that like, because she's a winner, she could be a shield of sorts. She could be that dragon that they slay later, because like, oh, well, look, she's still here. So she's a vote that we'll always have. So maybe she was leaning into that, just like we have Coach leaning into whatever the hell it is he's leaning into. I don't know what to call it. The Dragon Slayer
Insanity.
Coach? I don't know. But maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think she said this in her, and I think at the end there, when the credits are rolling, that maybe I shouldn't have been too fiery. I assume that was that a reference to that conversation she had with Jonathan? Because I thought, as much as Jonathan's tact was terrible, I thought she could have handled that better too, and like just sort of like taking the tact of, I'm not playing your game. I don't need to like have this big blow up right now. But every point she made was right, but I would have handled it a little differently.
Yeah, I think I'll have some thoughts on that in like the Rule 4-5 area, but quite frankly, I don't know where that quote came from, because then she disputed it in interviews. So,
but that happens all the time too. You get enough time, it's like it's just the narrative that you tell yourself. Who knows what the truth is anymore?
Right. Jessica, going to your point, yeah, I mean, she felt that way. It's not going to stop us from saying what she did wrong.
Oh, gosh, no, not at all. But I just think it's interesting that if that was the approach she was taking, which is kind of like, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And she doesn't need to listen to us, although people should. She doesn't need to. We already won the game. She won $1 million. She's set. She's good.
Now, I mean, another bit of that openness that got her in trouble was telling Jonathan she didn't trust Coach, which she mentioned in an interview. I referenced this earlier. And Jonathan, of course, told Coach, which helped lead to that argument. And yes, we know she felt that way because she busted him lying to her about Emily last week, like we said. But it doesn't mean you admit it to Jonathan, of all people.
Well, do you think maybe she was trying to gain some favor with Jonathan, at least? Like, no, Jonathan, really, I'm with you. But knowing that he's with Coach, I don't know how much favor you're going to gain. So,
well, according to her, Jonathan said, "Do you trust Coach?" And she said, "No." Why would you answer that honestly if he's asking you?
Well, because maybe she thinks that she can draw him away from Coach. Maybe if she can make him realize what Coach is actually doing with putting blinders on so many people and how he's negatively affecting their games. Maybe that was her goal. I don't know.
I don't know, since she said she knew Jonathan was coming for her. I just
none of that makes sense.
No.
It's just funny, but Jonathan and Coach, it's like they have obviously very large egos matching their very large frames, and it's funny, but how so easy it is to just shatter that like kind of veneer and get these results in a Survivor game like that because of the ego of it all. And it's just like, God, you have to be so much more careful around those bigger guys in a way that you think you wouldn't, because they have to be just completely confident and like, but no, they're almost like less confident than anybody.
Yeah. And of course, that was not the only thing that Dee said to someone when she shouldn't have, because she believes she really blew up her game by telling Emily about Rizo's idol. Because, Jessica, you know what the 3 fastest forms of spreading news are out there? Telephone, telegraph, tell Emily.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. And I would agree, because Emily is so very bad at keeping anything a secret for more than 5 seconds.
Yes.
Even I love when someone is. No, that's fine. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. But like the expression, Christian's expression when Emily tells him that she like spread the stuff. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's just priceless.
Yeah.
I just
Just a
don't
jaw
know
drop.
how many more times do you need to have a reaction like that? Like Christian has done this to her multiple times, that she's not in her head going, oh, wait, that didn't go well the last time I did it. So perhaps I won't do that again. But she keeps doing it. And it's to anyone that doesn't also make sense. It's not like she's sharing information with her closest allies or people that she's like, ooh, I have some intel and it can help our game. It's just like, I'm going to throw up all over you right now because this is how I feel immediately. And then afterwards she goes, I did a thing. I'm so sorry.
You're so right. And it's like, for us, it's like weeks are going by, but for them, this was like last Tuesday or like 2 days ago or this morning. Like,
Yes. There hasn't been that much
That's
time
happened.
that she's
No.
just set this aside and be like, oh, wait, what did I do? No, it happened 5 minutes ago, Emily. You don't remember this. Yeah.
right
Mhm.
after lunch.
The thing is, though, I mean, there's a couple things. One, she's not paying the price for any of this. Her allies
She's
sometimes are,
not,
but she's not. And
which is
two,
fascinating.
yeah, and two, so I saw a clip. She was at the Ron Clark Academy gathering, I think it was last week in Atlanta. And
Okay.
so I saw a clip, someone had taken video of her, saying a few words. And I believe what she said was basically like, I didn't do this for strategic reasons. It just happened. I don't know why it happened. And so it's not like she's going around, and I think this is probably one reason Dee couldn't stay mad at her even after the game. It's like, it's not like she was doing it to purposely throw Dee under the bus.
Mm.
It's just it happened. It slips out. You're there, and you say things, and she holds on to a secret as well as a sieve holds on to water. I mean, Dee tried to deny it when Rizo came to ask about it, but Emily wasn't even the only one that Dee told, so you can't even solely blame Emily, because Dee
Yeah.
also mentioned it to Tiffany and Jonathan, of all people. Again, why are you telling Jonathan these things?
Well, okay, we might want to spend just a moment here for the mere fact that if there is one issue we have had is when people tell other people all of their secrets, right? Like
Mhm.
we're curious why there's such a need to share information. But I feel like it's the same thing that's happening this season. Everyone is sharing everyone's information and their intel, and then they're like whispering, like, "Don't tell anybody I told you this, but Rizzo has an idol," and it's just like all of these things are happening, and then it's just it's and David, it's like when Jay had an idol, right? Where everybody's running around like, so Jay does have an idol. It's one of those types of things, right? Where like everyone is finding out and everyone's sharing the same secret, but nobody knows everyone's sharing the same secret. So the fact that like Dee got such heat for sharing this information is interesting, considering how many other secrets everybody is telling about everyone else. It's very similar to the fact that like Aubry's like, hi, 2 other people have idols. Why me? Why am I the target here? And again, I think it goes back to who's a threat to their potential game.
Right.
It's going to be Dee. So they're focusing on Dee telling someone's secret as opposed to like Emily, who's literally telling everybody's secrets to everyone. So I find it rather fascinating that this is the breakdown that we see, and that she was somehow getting so much flack for doing the same thing that everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
That's so true. And like, you tell secrets because you're trying to build trust and you're so desperate
Yeah.
to connect with other players who maybe you don't even have a very good relationship with. It's like, oh, this is a way to build that bridge. But yeah, you're right. It's so insane now. Everything's out in the open. Everything's out in the open. People should just be like wearing their idols and advantages just around their necks, because
Yes.
everyone knows.
T-shirts with little check marks like, I have an advantage. Just in case you forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny that Rizzo, of all people, was upset that she told people he had an idol when he literally 2 weeks earlier was walking around going, look at my idol,
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. Like it's they're picking and choosing who to be upset with.
yeah. All right, well, we could go to the third rule, which tells players to be flexible. Now, David, how do you think Dee did in this rule?
Oh, flexible. Well, not. I don't think she did so great, actually. I mean, there was nothing she could do. She tried. She got fiery. Her reaction to Jonathan I don't think was great when he challenged her. I think she could have handled that better. It's the tact of my wife is like this. She's like, I'm not playing your game, and I think that's the tact that Dee should have taken right there, just to completely. Because if you don't engage with someone acting that way, then they have no power. But she did engage, and it got bigger and bigger. And by the way, if you're any one of those other tribe mates watching two people go at it like that, especially headed into the largest tribal council ever, you're like, well, I'm safe tonight.
Well, that's why it was so funny when, who was it? Was it Devins that walked up when the fight started, and Emily and, was it Emily and Aubry? I can't remember. We're sitting there watching it, and I think it was Devins who walked up. I'm not 100% sure, but
It definitely was.
Okay, and said, "What's going on?" They're like, "We don't know. It just started," and they're just like watching it like a TV show,
Yeah. Well, because
like,
those moments are when you're out there to see anybody doing anything that's going to potentially hurt their game. It, like David said, you're like, oh, this is good. This is good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like that Far Side cartoon where I think the Martians are sitting on Mars and they're watching Earth blow up with all these, and they're like, ooh, you're just like, oh, this is great. It's not me.
Yeah, regarding flexibility, I mentioned in Rule 2 that you need to be adaptable, like when you move from an original tribe to a swap tribe. And even though she felt like Jonathan was against her, she had to decide, I think, one of two things. Either work with him and say, yes, we really are on this new tribe. We don't know how long we'll be here. This is what we need to do. Or just flat out target him instead of going after Charlie. And that's the part that's a bit odd to me as I thought about it more. She didn't trust Charlie because he didn't tell her what she felt was a piece of vital information. Okay. But he did tell her other things. And at least as far as she knew, he wasn't actually gunning for her. So why get rid of him instead of going for the known enemy, the person that you have been saying is going after you and wants you out? It's like, okay, this person's a little wishy-washy. This person wants me gone. Well, then go for it. Get rid of the one who wants you gone.
Solid advice. Wish she had taken.
I don't know why she didn't move over to that in terms of, if you're going to be flexible and turn on Charlie, no, be fully flexible and turn on Jonathan.
And they're all doing the same thing to each other.
Well, yeah.
It's not the game I play.
So, all right. Well, yeah. The fourth rule tells players not to let their emotions control them. And Jessica, what do you think of Dee for this rule?
Well, I think this is interesting because even though we saw her have this moment with Jonathan where she probably shouldn't have responded as much as she necessarily did, like I think David Wright's example of kind of like, I'm not going to get myself involved here, but I still don't think that was an emotional response. I think she was trying to defend herself and make people realize, like, do you see what's happening? Like, everyone is doing the same thing that you're accusing me of. And so I don't think that was the wrong thing for her to do, but I do think that she got a little too sensitive when it came to like Charlie and like the issue you were just referencing with Charlie. But it's like she didn't know how to like focus the emotions in the right direction, right? Like she was frustrated with Charlie because of what Charlie was doing. She was also frustrated with Jonathan, but she was putting too much of the energy into Charlie. And I don't know if that came from this place where I thought we were going to work together. And so maybe it was affecting her more negatively. And there was an emotional component to it because like, maybe I don't give a crap about Jonathan, but I did think I was going to play this game with Charlie. So it bothers me more that Charlie isn't, playing the game with me and he's telling people things about me. I don't know if that's necessarily the case and why she responded she did, because you were just wondering, why didn't she go the other direction? Maybe that was part of it. So, I don't think that her emotions were a huge, obvious part of her game, but maybe there was an underlying thing that was going on with some of the relationships that she might have had with people.
And also too, like, I think in the exit. I think I listened to her exit interview on this podcast on RHAP, and she said that Jonathan coach moment in the hammock happened shortly before tribal. So the votes were already decided certainly by that time. So that moment really wouldn't have affected anything. But who knows what happened before?
Yeah, Jessica, I was thinking the same thing about Charlie. I mean, almost in my notes, I have almost the exact same words. Like, is that why is that why she went after Charlie? Because she felt betrayed, but we don't know. So, like, literally, almost the same thing.
We're just trying to put the pieces together. That's all.
That's right. That's right. So the fifth rule reminds players they need to pretend to be nice and play the social game. And we saw Jonathan manage to prod Dee into getting angry in front of many of the other players. We've been talking about this. And as was mentioned, he was very proud of himself. And Dee mentioned it in her final words, though she then said otherwise in her interviews. So, David, you may have just kind of answered this, but I'll come back to you in case you have anything more to add. Do you think that actually did play a significant role?
Yeah, no, that I don't think it did. Given, I mean, I would have thought it did had I just watched the show. But listening to the exit press, I feel like when that happened, it didn't really matter. It didn't matter at all. But yeah, Jonathan was going to do what Jonathan was going to do, and yeah, I'm sure like after that happened, they were probably already about to get head out to tribal, and then Jonathan did that. I'm sure they're like, come here. Okay, what do you think you did there? That's pretty cool what you just did. Like, I got her.
Yeah,
Mr.
I mean,
Jeff?
I know she said that. I feel like it wasn't that close to when they left because there was still time afterwards. It seems like the whole lecturing that Coach did, and then Rizo teaching Coach, it feels like in time order, it makes sense that it happened the way we saw it. Maybe not when we saw it, but the way we saw it. It doesn't make sense that Rizo would tell him not to do that before he did that, or that would lecture people. So I hate to say this, but I think Dee may be slightly misremembering the timing on that, or maybe she just didn't mean it was literally right before, but maybe it was in the afternoon leading up to or something like that.
And it did look like the afternoon, but
yeah. But either way, I agree with you completely. David, you're right.
Yay!
He did it.
Yes. So what if she got mad at Jonathan? If anything, it might have made people want to keep her so those two could keep fighting and keep all the attention on themselves. The thing is, there were already plenty of other reasons we've mentioned and we'll get to in the rest of the rules. If other players wanted to get rid of someone for having a bad social game, they would have voted out Coach. But to the contrary, that was one big reason they kept Coach.
Yes. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
We got to watch out for those wishy-washy middle people.
That's whoever they may be.
Middle people.
The middle people who apparently there are only two of them. Yeah.
Yeah, like who are these middle people? Carry so much
a long list, I think.
I mean, yes, I think it's a much longer list than Coach thinks. I think
right, but that's what I think is interesting.
Himself.
Coach is like people in the middle, but like his middle is very small compared to like what it actually is. So
his middle is just Christian. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Christian is the middle. That's it.
He's the pivot point upon which everything rests. And it did show some of Coach's bad read on the whole game that he didn't even realize, Devins and Christian like this. He's telling Devins, don't tell the middle person Christian. Well, if Christian's a middle person, Devins is definitely a middle person,
Devins in that moment when Coach is like, someone ratted, we got to I'm going to find the leak then. I'm going to hunt this person down.
Yeah. I will not rest until I find the terrible person who perpetrated this crime.
Exactly.
He's giggling behind a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So I guess, kind of to wrap up this rule, I think she was fine overall here. When people made the decision to vote her out, their reasons seem strategic in nature, not because of how
Mm-hmm.
she acted.
Fair, totally fair. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, the sixth rule warns against being too much of a threat. And we've already tiptoed around this one on the way here because this definitely played a role. In our pregame podcast, I said most of the reason I'm concerned is simply that Dee is the winner on this tribe. That automatically makes her the biggest threat. Not to mention that she's widely seen as being the most dominant winner of the new era. Same things that you said, Jessica.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She plans to chill out and thinks she could make it through, but I have serious doubts. This is what I said pregame. Now, it did take a little bit longer than I expected, mostly because her original tribe never went to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it caught up to her. And, we saw Jonathan claiming he wanted to get rid of Dee because she lied to him, but he suggested to Mike that they get rid of her way back in episode 1. So come on, Jonathan, you're not fooling anyone. They were on, we discussed this already. They were on opposite sides from the start.
Yeah. There are receipts.
Yeah.
She never had a chance, probably. Sadly.
But I do think it's interesting that there is this idea that her being a winner was seen as a threat, but it's not necessarily her being a winner. It's more of like her game that they all saw that caused her to be a winner. So that's more what they were concerned with. And they were like, oh,
Yeah.
well, she's a winner. So she's actually not a threat because she's a winner, because that's a shield that you could utilize. But at the same time, it was just more like her gameplay and what they knew her to be capable of, I think, is really what they were focusing all of their energies on. And, but then she is labeled a winner. So it's like, well, she's a winner. So, she's too much of a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think you're right. Certainly, if Gabler had been out there, people would not be like, "Oh my God, it's a winner! He's
Right,
so threatening. We have to get rid of
right.
him."
Right.
But I am going to push back on something. You guys have mentioned this already. The idea of keeping her as a shield, and I know Tiffany brought it up, but someone else, and I don't remember who it was. I think it was someone on Blue Sky, brought up this point, and I agree with it, which is if you're a shield to everybody, you're a shield to nobody. Because if everyone thinks you're a shield, who are you shielding exactly? It's one thing to say, I'm a big guy with muscles, so I need to keep this other big guy who has slightly more muscles than me in the game because he will shield me specifically. But who is Dee going to shield going forward? I don't know that she was shielding anyone.
Well, maybe shield is the wrong term. Maybe it's more of this idea that so many people were talking about the winners that were going to be on this season and how people didn't want winners to win a second time. So it's not necessarily a shield. It's more of like we know that person can't win and we're not going to let that person win. And so if we keep them around longer, then we don't need to worry about it because we all agree either we're going to take them out or they're not going to win the game. But that's a risky move because if they get to the end and people go, well, now wait a second, they survived this long and they made it to the final 3. Maybe they do deserve a second win. So it's a very tricky idea to contemplate where we're going to keep them in longer because we always think we can take them out later, because we've seen that happen time and time again where there's that person like, oh, I don't know, a David Wright that people just kept in the game even though everyone was like, this dude's gonna win if he's in the final 3. Why are we not voting him out, kind of thing. And so you keep winning and he's still there. And so I think it's a very similar construct.
Yeah, and I won the fire challenge and now I'm a millionaire.
And you know what? Here's the thing, David, and I must say this on your behalf. If there had been fire in our season and you would have gone to fire, you would have made a fire in 2 seconds. And it would have been the fastest fire making and you would have won, which is nuts. But they didn't do it in our season.
I only have honestly Ken to thank for that. But yeah, I knew nothing about fire before I met Ken out there.
Oh my gosh! But then you became like you were like Pigpen. I'm sorry, but you were so dirty because you were just covered in like soot all the time because you were constantly maintaining and making the fire, which was lovely. It was great. But yes, if there had been fire making, everyone would have been like, no, we can't. David is going to win in 2 seconds.
It's funny, real quick, and then we'll go back to 50 because I want to make this about me. But I got lunch with Jay a few weeks ago, and he reminded me of this thing I forgot, that I would take hot ash out of the fire and put it in my pockets to stay warm. I completely forgotten about that. But
This
yes,
is why you are covered in soot.
yeah, well, it kept me warm. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. What you said, if she's a shield for everyone, she's a shield for no one. I would just feel kind of tempted to keep her in for a few more votes, because she is, like you said, always going to be an obvious easy one when you need it. But yeah, you're right. It's probably good she's gone for everyone's game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about this more when we get to Appendix A, but I think the main problem with her is this isn't someone like Suri. Everyone can comfortably bring, or believes they can comfortably bring, Suri to a certain point and then vote her out because they don't think she's going to win immunity. Dee is a challenge threat too.
And that's true.
She's not just a strategic and social threat. She can win a challenge. So by the time you get everyone together and be like, okay, now is when we're going to take out Dee, oh, she wins. And now the game shifts into a different direction and you piss someone off. And now she's in the back going, tee. Look what I did.
Someone's going to have to make that a soundbite or a thing to
the
play.
Tee. Yeah. I love it. Kind of like his rapping. He rapped once.
No, that never happened. There's no
No,
evidence
it
of that
definitely
anywhere.
happened.
No.
That was hysterical.
No, never.
No.
No, never. Well, last week, Suri told Dee, you want to take out the head of the snake, not the tail. And the tail was still there, although he had turned more into like the ass of the snake. But, even though Dee wasn't the head of anything yet, I just think people knew that she was more than capable of it, which made her an even bigger threat. So, that's
a good wrap up.
Yeah. So we could go to Rule 7, which covers idols and advantages in game mechanics. And Dee didn't have anything, but people erroneously thought she did, as we discussed. And then, of course, we already talked about how she spread around information about Rizo having an idol, which he did not appreciate. But since we already covered those, we don't need to go over those again here. So she did play her shot in the dark, which was smart given that she knew she was the target. Other than that, I don't know. Is there anything else either of you can think of for this rule about idols and advantages and game mechanics? Maybe.
Yeah, she should have played. You should have played the idol that was sitting right there in the fire.
Oh yes, you should have noticed that.
And no one's noticed. At some point, production's going to move it over so people see it.
I mean, the press release. Not to get into our predictions yet. The press release for next week suggests to me that they pull it out next week. Because they talk about a big gambit in tribal council, something like that. So I do wonder if next week is the week when it happens.
Interesting.
Oh, I would love that. I'm very excited for that moment.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
To add just one extra component to the shot in the dark, I did think it was interesting that she was hoping, as far as the coach vote is concerned, she was hoping that at least if she could get a couple names on coach, because she knew that she was going to get voted for. She knew Tiffany was getting voted for. So she was hoping that even if we don't have enough votes for coach, if I hit my shot in the dark, there might be enough votes to take him out instead of Tiffany so she could save an ally. So I thought that was an interesting little side for her to kind of try to do the math and the possibility of that as well.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing about game mechanics is don't do any fashion shows.
Apparently not.
I swear I could have easily fallen for that. I could have easily thought that was true.
And it's interesting because even like in our season, they started hiding the idols in coconuts. Right?
Yeah, they did.
I mean,
I believe someone on this podcast hid an idol, not a real idol, in a coconut.
Yes. But like that's an interesting component because you would think it's just in a piece of parchment wrapped up and stuck in a tree somewhere. No, they are actually hiding them in coconuts. And so you never know what creative mechanisms they're going to introduce. And then we did see the season where you had to say the silly things about a rabbit in a mailbox or whatever it was in order to turn on the idol. So yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that people thought that could be true.
Yeah, I mean, your head is like swimming with all those possibilities and ideas. And like Adam on 40, he was watching, what was it, Australian Survivor or whatever other international Survivor game
South
where they,
African, yeah.
yeah, okay, South African.
Yeah.
And so that was in his head. And so then he sees the little, I can't Florida, I can't say that. But yeah, it's like you're just looking for whatever narrative makes sense with all the evidence, quote unquote, that's around you and whatever's swimming in your head. Before it's like I've said this before. I think about this all the time when related to Survivor. And I probably said this on this podcast before, but it's that thing that Yoda says to Luke Skywalker in Dagobah, and there's that dark part of the swamp, and he's like, Luke asks him, what's in there? He's like, only what you take with you. So I can't believe I just did that. And I think that's what Survivor is in a nutshell. It's what's all in your head that you bring into the game and how that affects the way you play based on what you then see out there.
Yeah.
All right, now that's another soundbite that we need.
Yes. Now, I mean, to my mind, and maybe this is part of it, that the whole fashion show idea seems more like something that would happen on The Traitors for a murder in plain sight. Like, oh, you have to do this. Much like Rob Sesternino thought a conga line was a murder in plain sight. I mean, there was one happening, but not because of the conga line. So
sure.
I don't know. I don't see Jeff as being quite that creative to say, well, we'll have them do a fashion show. But he did come up with bunnies in mailboxes and confused goats on AstroTurf.
Goats on AstroTurf.
Yeah.
All that.
And I think the other shows, I think, influence each other, whether or they're aware of them. There's an awareness of them. And certainly whether the producers of any given show decide to adopt one of those ideas, all the players are watching those shows as well and they're influenced by it. So
right. Yeah.
All right, well, we could go to Appendix A, which discusses players keeping their end goals in mind when voting, and we talk about voting out the weak, then the strong, then the weak, then the strong. And we are definitely in a phase in the early merge of voting out strong players. You want to get rid of them when you have the opportunity before they get rolling. And we even saw a couple people say things like that in the episode. For example, Suri telling Rizo, well, we might need to get rid of Dee now if we can. And again, this comes back to what I was mentioning earlier. This is especially true for someone who is an actual triple threat. You're good both strategically, both. You're good all three, strategically, socially, and in challenges. You don't want to let them get a foothold, or in Dee's case, a big toe hold in the game. You don't know when you might have another opportunity to get them out. But you compare this to Coach, who was ostensibly the other possible target. He, as I mentioned, he's been described as the tail of the snake, or as I said, the ass of the snake. Emily talked about trying to get rid of him, but as I said earlier, every time we've seen her propose a plan this season, it's been a red herring. I think what Emily does is she goes for a lot of hypotheticals and discusses them through, and then they end up going nowhere. Like, I think that's her way of dealing with it. Well, what if we did this? Well, could we do that? And they talk it through and it ends up not happening. But the editors are like, yes, we have these great things that we can throw into the edit.
Right.
Now, in this case, I think nobody wanted to get rid of Coach because Coach has a poor social game. Yeah. Yes, it would bring more peace and harmony to get rid of him, but he's not a threat. If you're trying to vote out strong players, Coach does not fit the bill. He has made himself ripe to get picked off later. He's ensuring that even if he makes it to the end, he won't win.
Wouldn't it be terrible if that's what they end up doing to him, just because he's already been in the final three once and it didn't work out for him?
I mean, it would be interesting for me. I don't want to see it because I'm already tired enough of him. I want him to have his downfall. And I believe in the edit. Yeah, I believe in the edit. They are setting him up for a fall, not for a third place finish, I believe. But it would be interesting if he makes it to final tribal council, knowing one reason he lost in his season where he had an opportunity was he would not own up to the lying and deceiving
Yes,
and
right.
dishonor. Will he, if he makes it there this season, is he capable of reflecting on that?
I love
don't
it.
think he is. I really
I don't think he is, which I'm saying he's locked in at this point.
Right.
Like he can't admit that he was like he's been wearing like a disguise this whole time, or
Right.
that, you know, like he is not what he's purporting to be. Like he can't do that. He has to be like, no, it really, this is who I am, and this is what I did, and this is why I did it. As opposed to like, yeah, no, you know what, that was really not the greatest choice, and I shouldn't have done that, and I'm so very sorry for hurting people's feelings, or whatever he wants to potentially do with it. I think he's just too locked in.
Yeah, every hero needs a tragic flaw, and that is certainly his. And I'm sorry to call him a hero, David.
We already know he's a villain, you know, even though he never understood why he was on the villains tribe.
Yeah.
Now
that's correct. That's true. He would never thought he was supposed to be on the villains tribe. That's great.
No.
That there you go. That speaks so much to the psychology that you're just talking about. I love that.
Right. Now, another reason to just go along with the group at this point, if you're anyone else, is the players out there can do math as well as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, at least most of them can. They know there are going to be future double eliminations. They know that could mean getting split up again. If you go up against the main group and try to save Dee, you could end up a target in a situation like that.
Yeah.
You don't know what the mix will end up being. And, you know, plus, like Rizzo wisely said, you're not going to win the game at 14 by going solo.
Yes. Rizzo. Listen to that kid.
Riz God.
Riz God. You don't just get that nickname by giving it to yourself. You got to do something to prove it, you know, so.
Or you give it to yourself and then you have to prove it.
Is that it? Is that it? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I love was it the Cerise Wizard of Oz alliance?
Yes.
That's what they did.
That was fantastic. I love that. If there's a Wizard of Oz in the final three, that'll be amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is time to bring out Appendix B for the first time this season because it discusses the jury phase of the game. But in this case, I don't really think it had much impact. I do suspect some of the people who went along with this vote did so knowing if they get to the end with someone like Coach or Jonathan, well, they for sure have Dee's vote. You know, it's an easy way to make someone the mayor of Ponderosa without actually getting them mad at you. Like, if you're one of the many other people whose names are not Jonathan or Coach, you're sitting there going, you know, I really didn't want Dee to get to the end, and at some point I did want to take her out. And this way, I don't have to get blamed for it, and I don't have to get in trouble for it. So, yeah, let's go along with it.
Right. She's not going to be bad-mouthing you at Ponderosa.
Yeah.
She'll be bad-mouthing other people.
Is that automatic, by the way? If you're voted out as the first jury member, you automatically become the mayor of Ponderosa?
That's how you get elected. Yeah. You
Okay.
know, and I mean, I've heard it often as the queen of Ponderosa when it's a woman. So I don't know why, you know, somehow people started getting demoted. Maybe when men started getting voted out first, they had to switch it to mayor, a more, you know, gender neutral term.
I like it.
So, and, you know, someone could come in later and still be the king or the queen of Ponderosa. And, you know, if they have a forceful enough personality, but I think Dee will probably hold the title. So
she'll take that over. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is about time to wrap things up for Dee. So, David, what are your final thoughts on her and her loss?
I mean, I don't feel too bad for her because she won already. I think she was great television. She got deeper than probably anybody thought she would, including herself. I think she said as much. Obviously, I'm sure there's still some, you know, it's still kind of fresh, some of the wounds. But no, I think she did as well, if not better, as she possibly could have. So a good run for considering all the obstacles against her.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point because so many people were talking about her pregame and what their thoughts were on her. And I think that something we've talked a lot about in this season is the information that people are bringing into the game with them from the prior seasons that they've watched these individuals play. And so a lot of determinations and decisions seem to be based on things outside of the game that then they're looking at in the game going, aha, there's that thing. I knew she was going to do that. And it becomes the narrative. And it's interesting that we were talking about this idea of her being like a shield and what that was going to be like, because she did actually talk about that in her pregame press, where she said that I'm ready to play from the bottom. I'm ready to play from the middle. I'm ready to play from the swing vote. And I think having me is a perfect shield. If everyone wants to take me out, why not take me out later? That's obvious. So I'm curious if she wasn't also leaning in on it, thinking, well, you know what? It's fine. They're all going to be targeting me anyway. So just keep me around as long as you can. And I'm going to not let that affect me. I'm going to play the game I want to play. I'm not going to play different. I'm going to play just as hard as I want to, knowing that people are looking at me as a potential threat, knowing that people are looking at me as a previous winner, and knowing that they saw the game I played and that I was determined the most dominant winner in the new era. So I have to give her some credit for like recognizing what she was coming into the game with. But like David said, we didn't expect her to last long because she was coming into the game with all of that baggage, if you will. But it's great baggage to have. Like, hey, I won Survivor. Woo! Like, that's so terrible. Shucks. Damn it. And I get to play again. Isn't that insane? So, I think for her, she recognized it, she knew it, but she still allowed herself to be the Dee that we knew in 45 and that we saw play an impeccable game and win that game so brilliantly and so well, that it was nice to see her step up and not be afraid to play the game again, even though she came in with all of these things and in her baggage, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, despite initial appearances, people didn't vote out Dee because that's what Coach and Jonathan wanted. Or I guess they did, but not in the way it might have originally seemed. I don't think anyone really cares what those two want, and others could have flipped the vote if they had decided it was in their best interests. But looking at the lay of the land, who's the bigger threat? The guy who spouts random haikus and pisses people off and makes a fool of himself and lies while claiming to be honest? Or the former winner who is strong in the strategic, social, and challenge aspects of the game? Dee knew she was coming into the season with a big target. She told Mike Bloom that because of it, she was, quote, okay with making mistakes and, quote, want to try new things. And in hindsight, obviously the new thing that I tried was going against my moral of keeping a secret and not screwing over an ally. Yeah, that was kind of a big oops. Instead of making things better for her and trying to avoid the spotlight, she found herself squarely in it, right where Jonathan wanted her. He had her as a target since the start of the game. Could he have gotten everyone to vote her out just based on her blindsiding him at the Charlie vote? Maybe, since everyone else knew the threat she posed already. But combine that with some of the people who didn't really have a side finding out that she spilled an important secret and then lied about it. You just keep building, Jessica, like you talked about earlier. Keep adding things on. And all of that sealed the deal. It was annoying to see Coach stay and Dee go when we knew he was being a lying hypocrite while she was in the right, at least in that aspect. But that doesn't mean it would have been the right thing to do strategically. Dee was known to be a threat, and then she lost allies she might have been able to use to protect her, starting by turning on Charlie, which led to Camilla being voted out, and then Rizo, who she'd saved, turned against her because she talked about his idol. A big threat needs help to stay in the game, much like the alliance she marched to the end with in Survivor 45. But she lost almost all of her soldiers and was left standing on the battlefield with a huge bullseye on her chest. When you have this clear of an opportunity to take out someone like Dee, you take out someone like Dee. And that is why Dee lost.
There we are.
Wow. I also love the barking or whatever that was right before that.
There might have been a little snort, like she makes this little like snorting noise. Yes, it's like a dog pig noise. I'm not really sure what it is. So I apologize for anyone going, what the hell was that noise? Yeah. It's just something Ellie does.
There's no dog.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, there was no dog.
Yeah. It was just Jessica's stomach rumbling. She needs to eat something.
I never know what the microphone is or is not going to pick up, and I've been muting, so I apologize for anyone who had to listen to my dog snort there. She's very cute, though, I will say.
She is.
She's a cute little girl.
All right. Well, before we get to our predictions for next episode, I want to mention that next week we will have returning special guest Dr. Jeremy Faust joining us. He will be taking a quick break from his many things that he does to, try to convey health information and everything else to the world to come and talk Survivor with us instead.
Look, the dog is back. See, there is a dog.
Sure.
What? Oh.
You convince all the audio listeners of that. Just like there was a fashion show to get an idol. Sure.
I mean, crazier things have happened. Votes on AstroTurf. Come on.
Yeah. We do want to remind everyone also that the rules that we discussed just now are available in poster form. And poster on a t-shirt form, and of course checklist on a t-shirt form. So again, go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed to get any and all of those.
Yes, buy them all.
Yes. Now, David, where can people find you online?
Oh gosh, I wasn't ready for that question. No one should be looking for me, first off. But second, real Dave Wright on Instagram. I'm also on Blue Sky, although that's just me reposting like 2 other accounts. I never really do any original posts there. So Instagram, real Dave Wright. That's where you'll find me. Some honeymoon photos, some cats.
I did see some beautiful honeymoon photos as well. Looks like a great time.
I did. We did.
I love that. Good. I am at Jessica Lewis 89 on Blue Sky and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I'm at Jessica Lewis 6789 on Instagram, but my social media feed is nothing compared to the David Bloomberg, who sits to what appears to be my right, because this is all flipped around. So I have to
your right
be
is below
mindful
you.
of that.
That's your right.
Yeah, that's David Wright.
Yeah.
So the David Bloomberg, who sits to my right, has a link tree in order to find all of the locations. Because he has so much social media content, he has to make it easy for you to find him. So David Bloomberg, how can they find you on your link tree?
You could go to Linktree/David Bloomberg and find all these different links there. You can find me directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg, and on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV. I've been posting still about 2 or 3 reality TV short videos a day, pretty much all Survivor 50 at this point. But you never know. I could post something else that strikes my fancy. And I was also on another special off-season Traders podcast a few days ago, where we discussed the top 10 questions we see getting asked by viewers about the show and the players. And you can find that on the Tradar, TRAIDAR. You can get that on audio or on YouTube. So, predictions. Well, next week, are we going to actually finally get the battle between, I say finally, it's not been that long, the Zoom Alliance / honor integrity hypocrites from everyone else? That's what the preview was essentially telling us, which probably means it's not happening. But from the preview and from the press release, it looks like there will be 2 people booted. And hopefully both will be from the Hypocrites Alliance, but I'm not counting on it. There have been some suggestions that this might be a horrible twist taken from Survivor South Africa. It was called Tied Destinies.
Well, here we go.
And I believe Mike Bloom was the first to mention it. I hope it's not that twist, because you're linked to another player. And what that means is if they win immunity, you get immunity. Yay for you. But it also means if they get voted out, you get voted out.
No.
Yes. So that would be pretty terrible if someone gets voted out without it actually being them. Now, everyone knows. So we say, if we have to discuss it next week, we will. But let's say that it was you two. You two had tied destinies. And people really wanted Jessica out, and they're like, well, we want David to stay, but we really want Jessica out a whole lot. Is keeping David worth not not taking out Jessica? So that's
This
the
is terrible.
discussion that comes up.
But if I play an idol, say, does that mean Jessica then is also saved?
I don't remember the details.
Okay.
I don't remember if you'd have to play the idol on her.
And what if
Oh.
they play their shot in the dark? They play the shot in the dark and it hits.
Oh.
Well, if the
Yeah,
person
that's
who
weird.
voted
Things
on,
here.
yes,
There's a
yeah,
lot. There's a lot.
yeah. So I hope it won't happen. I also don't think it will, because Jeff likes to say he doesn't take things from other international seasons. He does. He may not know it. I think some of the other producers maybe sneak it in sometimes without telling him. There is something happening where they all have to pair off. So something is going to happen. We just don't know what. And I just hope it's not Tide Destinies.
Well,
Really
this is what I'm
interesting, though.
curious
Wow.
about. It when I'm remembering the preview, because they showed the challenge and it looked more like it was 2 teams instead of like 2 people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
interesting.
I think that they have to pair off and then be split, and then something happens after that.
Maybe
Oh my
they.
God.
So
This is too much.
yeah, I don't know. There's too much
Anyway,
to try to
it's too
figure it
much.
out. But
How about we
how
just?
bitter?
Oh, here's a crazy idea. Just let them play Survivor.
I know, crazy.
Bitter would
I mean,
you be,
I
though?
mentioned I mentioned in Appendix A and previously that they, players know they're going to have future double eliminations. They could be split up again. And, I said if you go against the main group, you could end up being a target in that situation. It does make me worried about Tiffany.
Yeah.
I don't know who she has left on her side other than Aubry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Aubry probably needs to spend most of her energy looking out for herself. She can't be like sticking her neck out for other people and putting
Right.
herself back in the line of fire. I also think there are enough people who are annoyed with the way things went down this week that if someone like a Jonathan or a Chrissy is available to take out, I think people will make that move. So my prediction is we are going to say goodbye to Tiffany and Chrissy, since Jonathan will probably win immunity.
I was also thinking Tiffany, and my dogs are getting a little cattywampus. I apologize. I just unplugged my light, so this is all happening.
These imaginary dogs. I don't keep going.
I know.
Please.
Listen, everyone knows these dogs exist because they have negatively affected some podcasts previously, so I apologize for the behavior. But I do agree with the Tiffany. And you said Jonathan. What's your other?
I
What's
said
your other?
Chrissy. I know you'll immediately
no,
agree
I'm
with
just
that one.
turning that off. I'm not
Oh, okay.
listening to you say anything about Chrissy because that's my winner pick. So I'm
Yes.
certainly not going to pick Chrissy. This is weird. Like, who do I? Oh, Tiffany.
David, do you have any picks while Jessica thinks about it?
I'm gonna go with Jonathan.
Okay.
I don't have 2 picks because I was just thinking about one, but I do think Tiffany is in a lot of trouble. I think it's either Tiffany or Aubry, I would think, and maybe both if we are doing 2. But for other predictions wise, though, if I may, I really love Rizo's position because he's got the Cerise Wizard of Oz alliance, but he's also part of the 4 Horsemen. He's going to have every single piece of information he needs to make the right move in his game.
Yeah.
I mean, all you need to do is align yourself with Emily to get every piece of information. But,
That's true too.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right. Well, we will see what happens this coming week here. Now, as we wrap up, I want to encourage people to check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. You'll get access to all the special podcasts that are put up just for patrons, plus the Facebook groups and Discord. And of course, you support shows like ours and everything on the network. So go to robhasawebsite.com/patron. Also, you can go to WeKnowSurvivor.com to make sure you're subscribed to all of the RHAP Survivor podcasts. So go do all those things if you haven't already, and make sure that you are fully set up. And I also should have mentioned in the social media portion of it that RHAP is now taking a more active role on Blue Sky as well. So, make sure you follow the RHAP account there too. And as a matter of fact, they put together what's called a starter pack for all the people who are involved in RHAP who are on Blue Sky. So you can go sign up and boom, you're following all of us there.
So also we would like to thank everyone at RHAP for all of the incredible work that you do and the editing, not only on this podcast, but all of the incredible content that you did here, David Bloomberg. Speaking of, thank you to Scott St. Pierre for leading the charge in that regard. Thank you to Will from America for the theme song that he did create for the audio version that you do hear of this podcast. Thank you for my dog Ellie for the snorts that you did get to hear, because she really is a real dog and does exist. Thank you to my other dog for unplugging my light at the very end of this podcast. So thanks, Echo, for that. Thank you, David Wright, for joining us, because this has been absolutely lovely. As always, it's so great to have you join us. You are such a lovely, I don't know, like you just bring a different type of air and idea and thought. And I played the game with you, so maybe it makes me feel a little bit different about everything that you suggest and say. But I have a lot of respect for you, and I love you so much. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, I thank you for having me. It's been a blast, and it's always great seeing you both. And Jessica, I feel the same way. It's like 10 years haven't gone by. I love it.
Yeah,
I know, it's crazy, right? It's insane.
Yes. Let me add my thanks, David. And I mean, we've mentioned this once before, but also thank you for saving Jessica when you did, which allowed her to, progress further in the game and have a memorable exit and end up joining me here. We said it before. You are responsible in part for Jessica, being on this podcast. So
right? Look at that.
I love that.
The crazy ripple effects of things.
Yes. Rippling through the multiverse.
Yes. And of course, thank you, Jessica, because you're also responsible for you being on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate you too. I should have said that. You are fantastic as always. So thanks.
So next week, as I mentioned, we will have Dr. Jeremy Faust back. Until then, find us on social media, and we will see everyone in a week. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.